Excellent. Great. So what I have on our agenda tonight to talk through is I want to do a sort of pre-release primer of the Leader's Guide. I'll pull it up. I'll talk through some of the bigger changes that have been made with the registration system question answered. There's just a couple small tweaks I have to make, and hopefully that can go live later this week. So I'm going to pull it up on screen. We'll walk through some of the big spots, talk about what's changed, and hopefully answer some of the questions you have before it's actually online, and you can read all of it in all its glory. And I have a couple other miscellaneous notes I'll hopefully get to when we get there, and then we'll answer questions and we'll go from there. Sound like a plan? Excellent. Fantastic. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you can see this, and if not, you'll at least be able to hear me talk about it. So just arrange on my screen so I can see everything happening. So we have our Leader's Guide. Our theme this summer is weird science. We're super excited to explore all of the weird, crazy things about the world around us. Hopefully blow a few things up, maybe Cupmaster's toothpaste, or I don't know, we'll come up with something great while we go along there. Some of the big changes that you'll notice the guide, you'll notice it looks a little different. We did some formatting changes, sort of tweaked the language a little bit. By and large, most of the information is similar to what we've had in the past. There aren't giant, enormous changes everywhere. You might notice a couple new pages in the front, but we have our table of contents there, which is fairly normal. You can read the fun little letter I wrote some other time. And early on, one of the other things that I put is a sort of update chain log towards the beginning. So I've tried to highlight some of the things that are most different. And if we need to make any revisions between when we first release it and when the summer happens, we'll keep track of any changes we are making there. Hopefully that makes it a little easier to see and notice what's going on. So we do have our updated pricing and fees. We are planning on having free time back in the afternoon program. We've made slight tweaks to the daily schedule, not big ones, very small changes. We've updated some of the information about adult leadership role ratios and how many adults we're asking you to try to provide. We'll have some more information about the online med form, which is a small little bit I need to tweak before this is ready to go out. And then we've added in some more information and more direct references to things like our youth protection policy and outdoor ethics policies and leave no trace, just to be a little bit more comprehensive in covering those bases. And we've got these nice bars of color all over the place that I learned I could do in Google Docs. So you'll notice a bunch of them all over. So like Allison mentioned at the beginning, a deposit deadline, that is a $100 deposit, is going to be April 1st. So that's the deposit deadline to be able to qualify for that early bird pricing. And then full payment is going to be due by that May 31st. We have our camp director chats here. At this point, we are sort of using these as our pre-camp leaders meetings. And so this, especially this May 22nd, is going to be where we'll review all of the things that you'll need to know, any last minute updates as far as what check-in is going to look like and information you need before you arrive to camp on Sunday. So we strongly recommend have at least one person at that May meeting. Feel free to join in some of the other ones along the way. We'll try to give you some good information as we go as well, but that's the one that we'll review everything and make sure leaders are set to go. The paperwork is going to be a little different with the change in MedForms. That'll be an online MedForm system, and we'll have more information about that in the future. The other thing we're going to move to online this year is our program choice form. So haven't built that yet. Still waiting to go through our hiring, see exactly what our staffing is going to look like, meet with our area directors. We're hoping to have that out by mid-April, and that will be in a digital format this year that you'll fill that out to request different free choice programs or things your PAC might want to do that are outside of the general structure of the program. So there will not be a ton of physical paperwork to send in, which will be super, super great. It'll be wonderful. We do have our camp service day and our den chief overnight. That is going to be that Saturday, June 11th into the weekend, into the Sunday, June 12th. So the service day will be on Saturday. It's sort of our last hurrah to try and get as much stuff set up ahead of time so that when our staff arrive, we can focus on training and practicing program and not have to worry too much about getting all of the tents up. That does take a lot of time for us. So feel free. We'll have projects for people of any age, big or small. If you've got troops, if you've got packs, if you have families who want to come in and help get the camp set up, that is the day to do that. You can email Steve Hambleton, stephen.p.hambleton@scouting.org to let them know that you'll be there for that camp service day. The Den Chief overnight starts on that Saturday and goes overnight into Sunday, and that is our Camp Carpenter specific Den Chief training. So we talk through what the program for the week is, the week of camp is going to look like. We talk about how to help support the pack leaders in camp. We teach them a bunch of games and tricks to help keep Cub Scouts engaged, especially in the in-between time. So all the things they need to know to really be helpful to you as a pack as a Den Chief. So if you have Den Chiefs who you know are going to be coming with your pack, it's a great opportunity for them to learn the role of camp. This is different from the official Den Chief training that trains them to be a Den Chief year-round. We don't cover those pieces. This is camp-specific sort of Den Chief preparation. So then we go into some of the program bits. Like I said, we've got our weird science team. I don't quite have a patch logo yet. We're going back and forth with the artists. It's in the process. As soon as I have that, I'll paste it in here. We'll make sure that that graphic gets out. It's going to be all slimy and sciencey and colorful and exciting. It's my dream. Most of the program information is similar to how it's been in the past. We don't have any major differences. We still have the fort. We still have Pirates Cove. Those wonderful, exciting theme areas. We have our waterfront. We have our BBs and archery range, all making sure that we are working with our National Camp School certified staff to run those in ways that are super, super fun, but also super, super safe. And the biggest change here, again, is trying to bring back free time in the afternoon. At this point, it looks like we're going to be able to do that. So we are planning on that. And we'll have, for those of you who remember when we did free time a couple of years ago, this block in the afternoon after snack where the program areas are open and packs are free to move as a group from area to area. So you won't be specifically scheduled to be, for example, at the waterfront, or to be at BBs, or to be at Swarm. You would have the option of whichever areas are open. So typically most days we'll have the waterfront open every day that is not thundering. We'll have some shooting sports open. We usually go back and forth between BBs and archery on alternating days so that we can have all those open during the week. We'll definitely have the warm area, so our water slide, arcade, rock throwing, mini golf area out there on the backside of camp is typically open during that as well. And then we'll have some other ones that are open from day to day. We make a big announcement scene during morning flags to talk about what activities are going to be open during the day. It's always fun to see what our staff members come up with to advertise their areas. We still have our Trailblazers program. This is that absolutely awesome, fantastic. I'm not biased. I ran it for 3 years, a little while ago nowadays, but it's a great opportunity for our older scouts, those Arrow of Light scouts going into 5th grade. They go on a day-long program. So they will be away from the pack for that day, but we'll put them together. They leave in the morning. They go canoeing across to the Huckton outpost. They get to focus a lot on some of those Webelos and AOL specific requirements, thinking about preparing to move over and cross over into the Scouts BSA program. So we start to put them into teams, start to show them what a patrol method looks like, start to get into some of those outdoor scoutcraft skills like fire building and knot tying and lashings and things like that. We also have out there our challenge course, which is an obstacle course, but themed around team building elements and teamwork elements. We have our action archery range, which is like a gamified archery range where they'll do things like play tic-tac-toe with bows and arrows, or try to do trick shots, or things like that. We've had a cowbell set up through a tire before, all sorts of cool things like that. And then we have our rappelling and bouldering. So we have our rappelling wall out back there, which has been a great success. Scouts have really enjoyed that. Our staff have really enjoyed being able to do that. And so they get to do all this cool stuff that especially that only Arrow of Lights can do, because the Guide to Safe Scouting gives them a little bit more leeway in the program. So we really try to leverage that. An extension of that is outside of the week is the bridge programs. That's this extra overnight for Arrow of Light Scouts. So Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, while most of the camp will leave after the closing campfire. And we are looking to bring back our family barbecue, where we invite families to come in and have dinner with us. And then our closing campfire, where we invite them to watch the staff do silly songs and skits, and invite PACs to do their own silly songs and skits as well. While most of the camp would leave after that, the Arrow of Light Scouts staying for the bridge program have the opportunity to do a bridge ceremony, which really tries to get them in the mindset of scouting, try to make it special, make it awesome. They get to enjoy snacks cooked out in Dutch ovens out in the campsite, usually things like fried dough and French fries and popcorn. So they get to hang out with the staff. And then the following morning, we'll do a round robin sort of camporee or jamboree style program where they'll get to do things like geocaching, working with GPS units, small scale geocaching. They'll get to use air rifles out on the shooting sports ranges. And we also try to usually tie in a couple other scouting sort of skills like first aid or lashings or things like that to round out that program. So that carries over into Friday. We do a closing ceremony with the bridge. They get to cross over a bridge. It's great, fantastic. And that closing ceremony starts around 11 o'clock, and then departure is 11:30 right before lunch on Friday. There's an extra fee for that program, so that's $65 a scout and adult who's attending. And I think that's a $5 increase from where it was last year. Again, mostly trying to cover the cost of food these days, which is super, super fun for everyone. So the schedule here looks a little different, but it's
I need to place an order if that's possible.
So we have the small tweak I made to the schedule was I bumped breakfast back by about 15 minutes, to 15 more minutes of sleeping and corralling time. Hopefully that all plays out fine. We'll see how it goes. Otherwise, you'll see things that are very similar. We have our 5 periods of round robin programming where you'll be scheduled for certain program areas. And then in the afternoon, free time right there before dinner. Fantastic, lots of great things. We still have the Carpenter House of Pizza for Wednesday night. If you haven't been with us before, Wednesday night is our pack out night where we don't cook in the dining hall. We give you food to cook out in the campsites with your packs. That's usually hot dogs and s'mores and things that are easy to cook over a campfire. If you want to order pizza to go along with that, though, we have that opportunity. We'll talk more about it. It's always been well liked. And then this is the bulk of where we have a few changes here. We have the updated pricing. We have the updated dates. So that April 1st early bird deadline and May 31st full payment deadline. And this ratio chart has changed ever so slightly. So we're trying to line up with an ideal ratio of 1 leader for every 4 scouts, which is what we're told we should have for the Cub Scouting program. So like before, if you have a group of at least 5, you'll have access to those 2 leaders coming for free. And then basically for each additional 4 scouts beyond 8, we're asking you to provide another leader. That leader will cost your unit $210 for each additional leader there. The result of this is we end up having slightly more leaders for bigger groups and slightly fewer leaders for small groups. Again, you're welcome to bring as many leaders as you like. You're certainly welcome to bring more than these ratios, but these are what we're asking you to provide at least for your group. So, and that ends up being about 1 leader for every 4 scouts. And then I know there was a question about this in the main group earlier, that Tiger and adult partner fee. So what we do for Tigers can come with PAC for resident camp, but they do need to have an adult partner who is specifically with that scout for that week. So these would be Tigers who are entering 1st grade next year. If they're in 1st grade now, if they're a Tiger now, they'd be counted as a wolf for the summer. So if you have incoming Tigers entering 1st grade, they can come with an adult partner. We have a special fee for that because we try to discount it as much as we can. So that fee is $600 or $550 with an adventure card for that scout and that adult. There's not a separate fee for that adult. The trade-off there is that that adult does not count towards your ratio, your leadership ratio for your pack, because that adult is there specifically to partner with that tiger for the week. Any questions on that? Because I know there were a couple questions on that earlier. Yeah.
Can we do partial adults this year?
Yes. So we haven't had any. We have nothing at this point that says we can't have rotating leaders. So if you're unfamiliar with that concept, if you have someone who wants to be a leader with your pack but can't be there for the full week, which we know is a situation that happens pretty often if people are taking time off work or whatever, you can split the week. So if you have one adult who can be there for Sunday to Tuesday and someone who can be there Tuesday evening to Thursday, we can do that. You can split the week with that leader. So you would pay one leader fee, or they would take one leader slot with two people splitting the week. I see a hand up there.
Hi, I have a question about the tigers. My pack is very young, so it'll most likely be all tigers, maybe one wolf coming. If we have a group that's all tigers, do we need a leader or two in addition to all of the tiger adult partners?
I would say reach out to me individually, and we'll see what the composition of the group is. I imagine if we have like 8 tigers with 8 parents with them, they can probably collectively look out for 1 or 2 wolves. We can touch base and figure out how to make that work.
Okay, thank you.
And sorry, I just saw that there were things popping up in chat. It didn't pop up my screen quite there. Oh, Joe was asking about free time. Yes, so free time is that block of time. Let's scroll back here. From 4 to 5:30. And Joe, I'll definitely touch base with you about figuring out how we can work around and support the museum during that time as well. I'm going to put that on my follow-up list. The question, are there age restrictions on shooting sports? There are a couple of small ones. And I believe the one that we would have to look out for would be lions can't do BBs. I believe they can do archery though. I have to double check on those. But tigers through Webelos can all participate in archery and BBs. And then Arrow Flight Scouts are the only ones who can do air rifles, which is why we put it into the bridge program that following day. And can incoming lions attend? So incoming lions cannot attend our resident camp program. They have to at least be incoming tigers for that. We may have some options for them in our day camping programs with Granite Base Camp or with the family camping program on those couple weekends. I think we have 3 weekends we'll have that available. But incoming lions, so incoming kindergartners, are not able to attend our week-long resident camp program. Most of what follows in sort of the second half of the guide are some of the policies and procedures that are similar to what they've been in the past. So we have our family barbecue that I talked about earlier. We'll be doing photographs through Clicks Photography as well, and those will all be ordered online by families, just like they did the last summer as well. We've added in a couple suggested packing lists. One for campers, for individual campers that you'll be able to copy off and use, and then one for the pack with some suggestions of things that you might want to bring as a whole group to be ready for some of the things people might have forgotten or things that break or so on and so forth. We've added those in. They existed in the past, but I think they fell out of the guide for a couple of years, so we tossed those back in. And then talking about pack leadership, it's important that any leaders who are coming to camp are registered with a pack and therefore have completed youth protection training. So that's our requirement there. One of the other things that covers is it covers a state requirement that anyone working or volunteering with Scouts in a camp setting have gone through a criminal background check. By covering that through our registration process, we make sure that that piece is covered as well. Yeah, I do already have a note to follow up on the campership application. It says it's coming soon on the website right now. I don't have more information about that yet, but I will make a push. I will ask for that, see if we can get that out in the next couple weeks at the latest. I believe the campership due date that's sticking in my mind is March 15th. I think I remember seeing it somewhere. I can double check that and look into that as well. And I think most of the other stuff here is not big changes, or talk a little bit about the Sunday check-in process and the med form where I have to do a couple little language updates there. Do twins who are tigers need an adult each? I would say that's another situation where reach out to me, send me an email. I'll put it on my list and we can talk about what might work best in that situation. So as far as medical services and med forms go, as we talked about, we'll have an online system for collecting med forms. It will still be the same BSA med form information. It will still need a doctor's signature. And the important thing to remember is that that's a doctor's signature on a med form for everyone who is attending camp. So that's not just Scouts, that's not just youth, that does include leaders as well. Need to have a physician or medical provider signature on that form. And the other thing that goes along with that is any medications that are coming to camp. It's really important that we have those collected through the nurse, that those come in original containers with original prescriptions and so on. In order for the nurse to be able to dispense those, they need to be able to see the prescription. So it's important that they don't come in, pre-sorted organizers where the meds aren't labeled and we don't see the scripts. So make sure we're bringing original containers for those things. And there was a question in the main group, I think it was from someone at GSR, as far as what the vaccination policy was. So there's no update to the vaccination policy. It's the same one we've had in place for a couple of years now. This was effective in 2019. But the vaccination directive that we have is that all participants and leaders have to present proof of up-to-date vaccinations for measles, mumps, rubella, and tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. And there is medical exception to that. But again, that's only a medical exception. There'll be a form they'll have to get signed by their doctor to apply to that. Does the medicine turn-in policy apply to adults too? It does apply to adults too. And one of the main reasons for that is because things are being kept out in the campsites. If someone drops something, if a Cub Scout comes across something, they have no idea what that medication is, that can cause some issues. And we have had some issues with that in the past, even with our policy being that it needs to be turned in by the nurse. And that is some of the requirements that we have by the state of New Hampshire in its camp settings. The most common small window and exemption is for emergency medication. So things like an EpiPen or an asthma inhaler, where we ask you to bring 2 of them. So the nurse can hold on to one in case they need to bring it to a situation. And then one can be carried either with the Scout or by a leader with the Scout. Or if it's a leader, they can carry it themselves. But the nurse is going to want to check in, see that, know that that's there, so that they are aware of what's out in the camp. And the other thing that medication policy does apply to is for any over-the-counter medications as well. So it's not just prescription medications, but anything that's over-the-counter, supplements, things like that. We ask you to turn those in. Again, just as we're trying to keep things out of hands and reach of Cub Scouts who may not know what they are. And I'm just quickly scanning through because most of this is really similar. We have our general camp rules, policy on discipline and physical contact. This stuff has not changed, and you'll be more than welcome to read through it when it comes out. Again, hopefully I get this out in the next couple days is my goal at this point. I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this point. Any questions on things I talked about that I haven't answered yet, or things I haven't talked about that you want to know about? Yeah, Jessica.
I have two questions. The first one is, we might have a very heavily AOL group this year, but with like a couple non-AOL. So for Trailblazer Day, do we have to keep with the 4-to-1 that go to Trailblazers too? Because I'm worried that we might only have like one adult left then to go with the kid, like the 4 extra kids that we would have.
Yeah, we'll play that by ear a little bit.
Okay.
When we're at camp, we'll see sort of what we have. That might also depend a little on if your group's paired with another group for program during the days. We do want to make sure there's enough adult coverage everywhere the unit is. So, but that does, in the day-to-day program, it doesn't necessarily need to be 1 to 4 at all times. That's more overall supervision.
Got it. And then the second question is the site request form. So we had put on our sign up last year when we left camp what we wanted. Do I have to redo it again now since it's our second year coming?
So I have that sheet.
Okay.
I have all that on a spreadsheet. And again, those are requests, and we try to match your requests as often as we can.
Right. I just didn't know if I had to redo it because it's our second year coming. So we're good. Okay.
We have that, and we make sure to look back at that when we are making those site assignments.
Excellent. Thank you.
I see a question here. Do AOLs return from Trailblazers for free time or dinner? I know last year they arrived back for free time, if I'm remembering correctly. I believe it will be the same this year. We haven't finalized all those schedules yet, but I expect it'll be similar. Can Den Chiefs attend Bridge? Den Chiefs can attend Bridge. The trick is it's a little bit of an interesting program for Den Chiefs to attend. We're trying to match the scouts into a patrol. We match them with one of our staff members as their patrol leader. There's not always a lot for Den Chiefs to do similar to the main during the week. So they can attend. It would be the same $65 cost if they do. But it depends on the Den Chiefs. Sometimes they're great at stepping back and being sort of an assistant patrol leader. Sometimes they just really want to be doing all of the things and leading the group, and that program's trying to shift that a little bit. So maybe think about that depending on which Den Chiefs you have, but it would be that $65 for them to attend as well. Can you get a copy of what was submitted last year for Pac 138? I will make a note of that, and I will send you the information that I had. $147 days until week 1. Fantastic. Great. It's a great feeling. I love when camp starts. You have plenty of work to do in the meantime, so it's good that we've got over 100 days, but it's exciting that we're getting close. So the question, do we anticipate offering Provo camp this year? We have gotten a few questions about that. We are hoping to. We're working on trying to figure out what our staffing might look like for that, to make sure that we have that covered. I'm not sure at this point we'd be able to offer it every week, but I am hopeful that we'll be able to offer it on at least a few weeks during the summer for provisional camps. So we are working on figuring that out. As soon as we have information, we'll pass it along. What is Provo camp? Great question. So our provisional camping program is for scouts who aren't able to attend with their pack. If they, for example, have a scheduling conflict with the week their pack's attending camp, or their pack isn't attending camp as a group, we have some staff or volunteers who serve as the leadership for that unit. We put them all together. They go around as a group. They're the Provo group. They get a special in because they get to know all the staff and have some staff hang out in the campsite, stuff like that. It's been a popular program. We've had Alex Ager was our Provo Cub Master for many years. And actually, I didn't mention it earlier, but I'll mention it now. Alex Sager is going to be stepping into a sort of dual role this summer as head commissioner and day camp administrator. So we'll be wearing a couple of different hats, but we're excited to see him there. This is his 13th summer on staff at a DWC camp, right behind me, right on my heel. It's scary to think we've been around that long, but he'll do a great job at that. And, so we are looking at whether we have a full-time staff who can do it for any of the weeks or most of the weeks, or if we have some volunteers. I have had a couple people reach out to me saying they're willing to come in and volunteer and help run a Provo program. So we're working on a calendar for that, and we'll get that out as soon as we can. A couple other notes that I had, generally some staffing updates. I mentioned Alex stepping into that role, or Ager stepping into that role. Some other general staffing updates. We are continue interviews. We are, I think, a little over halfway to where we want to be at this point, which is good. We typically continue interviews through the end of February. If you know anyone who is 15 years of age or older, anywhere along that range, who is interested in working at camp or helping out over the course of the summer, have them reach out to me, have them fill out an application. We'd be happy to talk to them and see how they might fit into our team. Some spots we're especially looking for that sometimes are tricky for us to fill are some of those over 18 and over 21 spots. So we do have a few openings for over 18 staff, especially in shooting sports, and to help out with Steve for the summer as an assistant ranger. We do have a couple over 21 positions that we haven't quite filled yet that we could use some help with, which would be for an aquatics director and for a business manager. So we're continuing to look out and reach out. But if you have any contacts or know anyone who might be interested in those, or if you yourself might be interested in those, feel free to reach out, and we'd love to have a conversation with you. There was also a question earlier in the main session about the New Hampshire Camp Scholarship, and I remember seeing a little bit of it, and I know I need to do a little bit more research on it, but I believe I found the website that's Rekindling Curiosity Education. We'll work on pulling some more information on that together and putting that out over Facebook and hopefully by email too, but some information about a state of New Hampshire program that's covering some of the cost of camp fees. So that, along with some of our campership programs, hopefully can really help support getting scouts to camp over the course of the summer and not letting the price be the reason that keeps them from coming to camp. Any other thoughts, quandaries, questions? Excellent, fantastic. If there's something you think of 5 minutes later, or think of in the next week before we have this next chat, always feel free to shoot me an email. I've been doing my best to try to stay on top of those or connect those as resources to make sure we get those questions answered. You can shoot me an email at brett.branscombe@dwccamping.org, and I will do my best to try to get that set up. Camp scholarships, I believe campership applications are going to be due March 15th. That's the date that's sticking in my head. If it's a different date, we'll make sure to pass that information along. It's a good question. So if you turned in the reservation form at the end of last year, that's just sort of blocks in our system. It's on a spreadsheet I have to help get a sense of how many people we're expecting in which weeks. Once we get the double knot registration up online, it will be a group registration like it has been in the past, as we're still using double knot. So once that's online, one person for each pack will go in and start to build the registration for their group. So there'll be a different link for each week. Whoever for your pack is managing that will log in, start to block that out, and start reserving spots in those weeks. So I will stick around if anyone has any last minute questions. I'll certainly be happy to answer them. But for everyone else, thank you for taking your time to learn about and get some more information about camp this summer. As Mike said, we have 147 days until week 1, which means I have about 120 days to get everything together before we start having staff on property. It's exciting, and hopefully we can get lots of scouts to enjoy all the awesome program we have to offer this summer. So, thank you for taking your time to come talk about it, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, Brett.
Will the Leader's Guide be emailed out? I will make an effort to have it be emailed out to the leader contact list as soon as it is available. I'll try to post it on Facebook. I'll try to send it out as many ways as I can.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question. Our pack, traditionally on pack out, brings in food for the pack. Is that going to be something we're going to be able to do again this year? There were some disappointed scouts last year, understandably COVID, but should I start planning, or should I start telling our parents, sorry, it's likely not going to happen again this year?
I'm going to tentatively say we're hoping to be able to do that again.
That's exciting. Well, obviously we'd say, pending whatever could happen, but it'd be nice to be able to say we can at least start thinking about the possibility. So
yeah.
Awesome.
I would be hopeful. So, and I'm optimistic that we'll be able to do that. Just like being able to do the Thursday barbecue and things like that. So unless there's a COVID regulation or reason why we can't do that, we would hopefully be able to do that.
And there'll be more of a program selection this year, I understand, right? So they're not necessarily going to everybody do it. Last year was a little different in that they didn't get to pick so much, so this time they'll have a little more ability.
So there'll be a program choice form. There's a skeleton of the schedule that is there by default. So being at the waterfront for a few times a week, a couple times a week, at shooting sports a few times a week. Some of those are sort of baked into the master schedule. But a lot of the options around that are flexible. Of which program do you want to do at nature? Which STEM program do you want to do? What handicraft do you want to do? That's where that program choice form will help fill that in a bit.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And I also thank you for clarifying the early bird and the adventure card with Camp Carpenter, because I think the email that went out recently has the wrong amount. So thank you because that was one of my questions. It didn't make sense that GSR had a double discount and Camp Carpenter did not. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yes. So it should be, if I'm remembering my numbers right, about a $50 discount with the adventure card, which is about the amount of the adventure card, and then a $30 discount for the early bird fee.
Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Hey, Brett, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, finally got it fixed. So we passed in that form at the end of camp last year. I guess Cindy passed it in, but she thinks she put the wrong week on it. And I emailed like the generic support at NH Scouting with those details because I didn't know your personal one. Is that going to get to you, or should I like resend that to you directly? We want to be week 1.
Yeah, I have my chart pulled up, so let me look and see and remind me which pack number it is.
160.
160.
I think she put like 2 because we came 2 last week, but like 4th of July is an awful time to be there.
She did put week 2. I'm changing that number to 1.
Okay.
And that is on my list now.
So that's all set. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.